Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Things went absolutely down in this past episode of The Mandalorian. This was pretty much the episode that we all really wanted last week that we didn't get. We got another little side story last week, but this was the episode that we wanted because we wanted to see the continuation on how episode 5 left off. And I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and it gave us a lot of that story beast that we were really wanting last week and we didn't really get. But before we actually get into this episode, and it's gonna be really spoiler heavy, I'm assuming you guys already watched this episode when you guys watched this review, but before we get into the actual my thoughts and stuff of the episode and the breakdown and all that stuff, I just want to throw a big shout out to Rick Famuyiwa. We always talk about Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, but this guy has sort of been like the unsung hero that no one really ever talks about. This guy has produced some of the best episodes of seasons 1, 2, and 3 of The Mandalorian, and we never really kind of give this guy the credit that he deserves. He actually is acting as a producer on the show now, and I really think that we need to start giving this man some props because he has been putting together some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian. This guy, he's a powerhouse. He's something we need to be talking about. So let's talk about this week's episode of The Mandalorian. And we get Moff Gideon. This was something that we wanted to see last week because they left off with that cliffhanger that Moff Gideon has escaped. It looks like some Mandalorians have been helping him. They found some Beskar inside the hatch that freed Moff Gideon. We get a little more details on the fact that that one Imperial trooper that wiped out the mind of the clone doctor is working for Moff Gideon, which, surprise, surprise, not surprise, we kind of knew that was happening. And we really get into a lot of like okay, this has all been planned and all this stuff is really kind of coming together now. And what I really liked, where Moff Gideon is in front of the council of the Empire, the Shadow Council of the Empire, and they're talking about Thrawn's return, and Thrawn's like coming back, and Moff Gideon's like, where is this Thrawn? You keep talking about Thrawn. Where is Thrawn? You guys keep talking about Thrawn? Show him. Where is he? Come on. He even proposes that, look, you keep talking about Thrawn. I think it's time for new leadership. Pretty much the Shadow Council is like, hey, you know what? I kind of agree. I haven't seen Thrawn in years. I'm like, where is this guy? And so there's a lot of tension within the Shadow Council, and you see this is a guy who's very close to Thrawn. He's Thrawn's like second hand. He is waiting for Thrawn to come back. Meanwhile, Moff Gideon is like, no, I am here now. I have not seen Thrawn. We are going to go through with my plan, and you're going to give me what I want. And then we cut back to one of my favorite parts of the episode, and that is the IG droid. So they finished the IG droid. This is IG-12, which was based off of IG-11, and what they did was they made it to where it's actually a suit, much like Ninja Turtles Krang's body, and Grogu can go into this suit. And I love that idea. I never even thought of that idea, and it's so funny because now Grogu can walk with Mando. He can do all kinds of different things, and I like that. I like the fact that he can just walk with Mando. I really want to see if they're going to do some kind of like fighting techniques with that, but the comedy was pure gold because now he can kind of have like some kind of verbal communication with the button by saying like no, yes, no, yes. And this was just hilarious. Like, this was absolutely hilarious, just the amount of comedy going on with that. And it was just something that it was like something I wasn't thinking they should do. Like, I never once said, hey man, you know what, Krang from the Ninja Turtles, wouldn't that be cool if baby Grogu had a body? And when I seen it, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. Wouldn't it be awesome if like they can really get to move very well, maybe get a different type of droid body, and he can like wield lightsabers and all that stuff. So we get to a point in the episode after the baby Grogu stuff and all that, where Bo-Katan is trying to bring all the Mandalorians together, saying, hey, you know, we got to go back to Mandalore. We need to recover. We need to rebuild Mandalore. All the Mandalorians are like, yeah, I volunteer. I volunteer as tribute. And they all end up going to Mandalore, and they're scouting the area. They're looking for the Great Forge. For the first time in a long time, these clans have all united in the one common goal to retake Mandalore. And that's something that Moff Gideon is not liking. Moff Gideon does not want the Mandalorians reunited. He wants them separated because they pose a bigger threat to his plan and the Empire. And as they get to Mandalore, they come across some older Mandalorians that were there during the Purge, that were there, and they stayed there the entire time, just kind of waiting for Bo-Katan's return. And that's even more Mandalorians added into the group. And that was something, again, I think that was so interesting, because now we're getting like 3 different clans perspective. We have Bo-Katan's perspective, we have the Armor's clan's perspective, and now we have these Mandalorians that were there during the Purge. We get to a point where Din Djarin and Bo-Katan are having this conversation, and she's bringing up the dark saber and what it means and how she kind of failed Mandalore. And Din Djarin's like, look, like, my clan don't even know about the dark saber. We don't know anything about, I never even heard about this dark saber. Just lead us. That's all we need, is you to lead us. We don't care about, this dark saber and all this stuff. And then we get into like what I feel is like the crux of the episode. When they get attacked, they're on this like barge, and they just absolutely get attacked by this giant monster, and it completely just ruins their airship. They all have to abandon ship, and they now are on foot, and they're going to the Great Ford. And once they get to the Great Ford, that's when things like really just gets insane, because it looks like everything was a setup. And now the Empire has like these Mandalorian-like stormtroopers, and we get to this giant gunfight. And this is just like, it's absolutely insane. Like the Mandalorians, like they're fighting off this Imperial jetpack wielding wannabe Mandalorians. And we find out that the Empire, for the most part, was here the entire time on Mandalore. They were building bases, much like on Starkiller Base. Like they built these bases inside of Mandalore that Bo-Katan did not know. And we see Din Djarin trying to fight off these stormtroopers, these Imperial troopers here, while the other Mandalorians and Bo-Katan are cut off on the other side, and they're just like completely just like overpowering him. Then Moff Gideon showed up, and he has like this armor that looks like something for like a Mandalorian armor. So he has like this Beskar armor that's made for him, and he confronts Din Djarin. Din Djarin gets taken away. Meanwhile, the other Mandalorians and Bo-Katan are separated. Moff Gideon is sending out the troops, the TIE fighters, the defenders, everything, to try interceptors, everything that he's got. He's sending them out to finish off the other Mandalorians that are out on the surface. Like, he's going to purge everybody. And then it gets to the point where Bo-Katan, she uses the dark saber to help them escape. And again, it becomes this massive shootout where they're trying to escape. They're all coming out. They're trying to escape. And then Vizsla here, it stays behind to try to give Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians time to escape. Vizsla has been a mainstay since the very first season of Mandalorian. He's a fan favorite for a lot of people. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I do respect his code. I respect his honor. And he stays behind to give the others a chance to escape. And he's shooting off all the Imperials and all this stuff. And we see this a lot in other shows and other movies where the hero goes out in a blaze of glory and he's shooting all that. And it's just, I'm sitting there like watching like, oh my God, this has been one of the best episodes in terms of the Mandalorian. Like, it's giving us plot, it's giving us Moff Gideon, it's giving us Thrawn Easter eggs, right? We're getting all kinds of Mandalorian lore. We find out what happened, that Bo-Katan surrendered her darksaber and everything to Moff Gideon in order to make their people safe, and he went against their word and purged them anyway. And then Vizsla here, he's fighting off those Imperial troopers. And then this is when it goes down, because now these Crimson Knights from the Imperial Empire, the remnants of the Shadow Empire, the Shadow Council, come out, and they're just gonna go ham on Vizsla here. And this was the point where I was just like, this episode just went a whole nother direction, and I loved everything about this episode. I absolutely 100% loved. It gave the series stakes. It gave us more details on the story. It tells us about the purge of Mandalore, what happened really with Bo-Katan, and the fact that she surrendered, all their weapons, everything to try to save her people. Moff Gideon killed their people, purged their people anyway. The unite of all three clans of the Mandalorians, just a whole bunch of stuff in this episode that I really, 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 really loved. And again, I gotta throw the shout out to Rick Famuyiwa. This guy directed a hell of an episode. For me, this season has really been up and down and around. Here we go again. I thought the first 2 episodes were really good. Episode 3 by far is the worst episode in all of The Mandalorian. It was just not a good episode, episode 3. I understand that the whole doctor thing was going to tie in into the events that we see now, but the problem with that is it didn't need to be a full episode. And not only that, it was like a 45 to 50 minute episode. They easily could have took the events of episode 3 and mixed it in with episode 4 and kind of like mix them together, like here's a couple shots of this, then we go back to the doctor, then we go back, because episode 3 episode 4 wasn't as bad as episode 3, but it wasn't a great episode either. So you could easily just mix those 2 episodes and we could have got a really good solid episode, and that would have gave you room for an additional episode. And then I thought they really picked it up with episode 5, which I'm not entirely sure, but I think Rick did direct that too. Episode 5, I want to say he did. I'm not entirely sure. I could be way off based on that one. I have to go back and double check, but episode 5 was fantastic. And then we get into this episode 6 last week, which was a letdown for me. And then we get to this week's episode, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I think there is a problem when it comes to leveling things out, making it even, let it flow more natural. I think these episodes were like the doctor for no reason, Dr. Purgeon for like no reason whatsoever. I think those things could be easily incorporated throughout other episodes and we can still get the same story beats. This episode was phenomenal. I cannot wait to see what they do for the season finale. Are we going to see Thrawn? Moff Gideon did backtalk Thrawn very heavily in that Shadow Council meeting. So is Thrawn going to take out Moff Gideon? Is Bo-Katan going to take out Moff Gideon? Is Moff Gideon even going to survive this season? Are we going to see Thrawn next week? There's a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to speculate, and that, to me, I find that fun. That's great. That's what I want to see. I want to see, all that speculation and it makes Star Wars fun. And this has been one of the best episodes of not just the season, but all of The Mandalorian. But I want to know what you guys think. Have you watched the episode? I hope so, because I went through a lot of spoilers. In fact, I went through every spoiler. Did you like the episode? What do you think is going to happen next? Leave those comments in the comment box below. Smash that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you guys next time. Later.